Atkin. As you can see right here, this is my final wellness presentation for the Mind-Body Connection class, Building a Healthier Life. Let's get right into it. So what is the mind-body connection? For me, the mind-body connection means that recognizing that every part of wellness affects every single other part, which is sort of what I have written there. I used to think of things like sleep, money, exercise, and relationships as completely separate areas of life, and throughout this course, I realized they are all constantly influencing one another. Mental health and physical health completely go hand in hand. For example, when I was sleeping poorly, I made worse financial decisions because I relied more on convenience. When I stressed about money, I found it harder to be present in my relationships. When I spent time doing creative things, like theater, on the other hand, I noticed my mood improving and I would handle stress better. And then finally, consistency is key and perfection is not the goal. That was the biggest lesson for me for wellness. I think that it can feel really overwhelming when you're thinking about taking care of yourself as something that you have to be perfect at. But that's not what it's about. It's about creating enough balance that each part of your life helps support every other part of your life instead of working against it. All right, so let's get into it. I've got the 8 pillars written here, and then I really just like the image of pillars for this, just because I feel like it really helps me solidify that every single thing is helping support this grand roof of wellness. That's the metaphor there. But here's our 8 pillars. We've got movement, which improves physical health, energy, and mood. Nutrition provides the fuel needed for both physical and mental performance. Sleep allows the body and brain to recover and process information. Relationships, healthy communication, and supportive friendships help improve your emotional well-being. Creative expression provides purpose and confidence and stress relief. Spiritual wellness, it's all about developing gratitude and mindfulness and personal values, which can help you create resilience in your life. Financial wellness, managing money is, of course, super, super crucial for reducing stress and creating stability in your life. And then last but not least, mental wellness. In my opinion, mental health is strengthened by all of the rest of these pillars sort of working together, which is what I have written here. Each pillar contributes to another pillar. None of them are standing in isolation. I think that is a really important thing to remember. Sorry, I had to plug in my laptop real quick. Okay, so starting off strong with nutrition, one thing I noticed throughout this course was how often my eating habits reflected everything else happening in my life. Like during busy weeks with work, I would skip meals or I would rely on caffeine instead of actual food. But then when I would keep track of my eating habits and I would realize the unhealthy choices that I was making, I sort of tried to make a change. And when I did make that change, what I realized was that eating well improves my energy, mood, and concentration. It is so crucial to make nutrition a priority. Writing things down and all of the assignments where we had to journal sort of where we were at in our own personal lives were so, so crucial for me. And then I also have written down breakfast and meal prep because eating breakfast before work instead of relying on coffee or caffeine just super, super affects my day and my shift and how everything goes. And meal prep has been super, super helpful for me. My busy schedule is what stands in the way of my wellness goals a lot of the time, and making sure I just have nutritious meals already prepped for the week has been honestly life-changing. Moving on to movement. Movement is probably what I would consider my most difficult pillar, but I would also consider it the most improved over the course of this course. I learned through the assignments that being aware of my body just affects so many different areas of my life, which of course goes back to the everything is connected thing. My favorite assignment was the Yoga with Adrienne one. I've kept doing her yoga videos since I've completed that assignment, and really what it helped me realize was that the intensity of the workout is not what matters, and you can really just use movement as recovery, almost. That's what I have written down there. I would do some yoga after a really, really evil shift at work or something like that, when I really just wanted to, sleep or doom scroll, and the movement actually immediately helped my body feel better, as counterproductive as that maybe sounds. And then I've got consistency written down here again, because that's really all that matters. Consistency matters much more than intensity. I also just really like this image right here of the heart plugging into the brain, because I feel like being more aware of my body and movement just made me feel that much more connected to other parts of myself. Everything is connected, believe it or not. Moving on to sleep. Sleep was the pillar that exposed my weakest habits. My journal showed an extremely inconsistent schedule. Some nights I would stay up, some nights I would sleep in, and although I enjoyed the experiences I would sacrifice sleep for, I also immediately experienced the consequences. That's what I have written down here for my biggest takeaway, is just that if you don't prioritize sleep, you will literally immediately regret it. Making time for sleep is completely essential. It affects seriously every single other pillar. Even though I didn't regret the things that I did instead of getting more sleep, still, like the next day I just felt like crap. My appetite was affected, the way that I would move my body was affected, I felt like there was brain fog. Sleep is just so crucial. That is what the assignment and the sleep journal helped me confront and realize for my life. Alright, so moving on down to relationships and social wellness. This is a really, really important area of wellness for me. When I look back to times in my life where I've felt the most depressed and conversely the most happy and productive in my life, those times are always directly correlated with the times where I felt like I had the most fulfilling friendships and connections in my life. One of the assignments asked me to reflect on how technology affects relationships, and the conclusion that I came to is that it does. I wrote about a theater production where a friend of mine spent a lot of time backstage and missed some cues, and how abandoned it made me feel. And what that helped me realize was the difference between being physically present and being emotionally present. Both are important, but one can't really exist without the other. Both is just where the sweet spot is. I also have written down here, having friends who prioritize the 8 pillars will help you in those areas as well, because just as when I had those fulfilling friendships in my life, I felt really, really good, I feel like it's because of the example that those people were setting in my life with the way that they were taking care of themselves and their bodies and their minds. All right, creativity and spiritual wellness. I would consider this probably my strongest pillar just because it's always something that's been a part of my life, but I recognize that I still have a lot more to learn. Through this course specifically, I learned about meditation and its positive effect and the importance of slowing down. The meditation assignment kind of surprised me because for some reason I feel like I expected it to feel unproductive, but slowing down actually made me feel a lot more grounded afterwards, and practicing mindfulness helped me recognize how rarely I allow myself to, just exist without thinking about the next responsibility, which is why I also have written down here creative habits besides theater. I think that having theater is such a major part of my life, professionally and in regards to school and socially, it can feel like a little bit of a responsibility sometimes, as much as I love it. And so I think it's important to have creative hobbies in my life that don't feel like work as well. Not that theater feels like work, but I don't ever want it to. You know what I mean? I want to avoid that at all costs. All right, financial wellness, which was probably the assignment that felt the most personal for me. The journaling assignment really helped me confront some spending issues. And I learned that consistency, surprise, surprise, consistency is key. And I also think that being aware of what you're spending is sort of the most important part, which is what the financial log helped me do. I had to sit down and take a look at what I was spending and what I was doing, and I had to be aware of it, and honestly, I wouldn't go back. Alrighty, so my personal wellness growth. My most improved pillar, I sort of discussed it, but it was movement. I've always had a mental block in that area, and just being more casual with it was really helpful for me. I also learned, of course, again, that all pillars work together. My pillar to keep working on is sleep. My assignments consistently showed that I struggle to balance responsibilities with rest, and I want to improve that. Some assignments that impacted me the most, again, all of the journaling assignments, where we had to keep a log, where we had to do something consistently, those were really, really major to me, because it forced me to think about wellness all the time. Not just, while I was frantically trying to complete assignments, but during the week, and while I was living and doing my life. The biggest lesson that I learned is consistency over perfection. Wellness is not about making huge changes overnight. It is built through small decisions repeated consistently over time. Here I've got my action plan, got my 3 goals. I want to get 8 hours of sleep at least 4 times a week. That might not seem like a lot, but it would be an improvement for me. I really want to keep journaling what I eat, and I want to get a 30-minute yoga session every Sunday morning. Some healthy habits I want to maintain. I want to keep journaling and being aware of where I stand with each pillar. I want to move my body every day. A challenge I see myself encountering with that is just a busy schedule. I really need to learn how to prioritize my health, even when school or social obligations feel really, really urgent. Success strategies: don't hide from the reality of the situation, especially with spending. That's a bad habit of mine. I have to confront where it is I'm at, even if that's not a great spot. Staying accountable through friends and family, and prioritizing those needs versus wants. Yes, the end. Thank you so much. It's been such a great semester. I really appreciate all of the time and effort that you put into all the classes and the curriculum. I really learned a lot in this class, so I appreciate it. Thank you.